For some reason, I've been thinking a lot over the past few days about Andrew Jackson and what Andrew Jackson represents in American history and in kind of bringing in a whole new era of democracy, right? It's called Jacksonian Democracy, the years of especially like the 1830s, 1840s. So Jackson, in a lot of ways, was really the first like outsider presidential candidate, right? He rides in on a wave of states eliminating property requirements for voting. And so really by the 1820s, most states had said, if you're a white man, you can vote. You don't have to own property anymore. Consider that like our first, however many, 5 presidents had been literal founding fathers, right? They'd been people that were there at the signing of the Constitution. All of a sudden in 1824, they're all old or dead. And so it's kind of the first time that we get to decide like, okay, what's the next phase? And really, we have the decision between two people, the literal son of a founding father, John Quincy Adams, or this outsider, rough and tumble from frontiersman from Tennessee, Andrew Jackson. Now, just to be clear, Andrew Jackson was a lawyer that had like an estate and a ton of money, but the common man saw him as like, he's our guy, he gets us. There's the corrupt bargain in 1824, right, which leads to John Quincy Adams being in office, even though Jackson won the majority of the popular vote. 1828, Jackson becomes president. And he really kind of like flips Washington, D.C. upside down. I mean, literally some of the elites that live in D.C., which there's not a lot of people living there besides just like actual people working in politics, like lock their doors and lock their windows for a few nights because they're so nervous about like all of these like common men coming in and like disrupting their kind of esteemed DC estate. But he also wants to reward all of his supporters with jobs in Washington. And just to be clear, every president comes in and picks who's going to be the head of their cabinet and stuff, right? That's normal. I'm not suggesting that Andrew Jackson would keep the same, Secretary of State and whatever that John Quincy Adams had. What I am saying, though, is that Jackson straight up fired like 10% of the entire federal government. Like the bureaucrats who are working in Washington, D.C., a lot of them were mailmen, right? Postal workers. And he did it for no reason other than he wanted to make job openings so that he could fill them with people who had voted for him. This becomes known as the spoils system, and Andrew Jackson really becomes like the king of it. Now, is he the one who invents this? No, we can go back to like Roman patronage or whatever, but he is the one who sort of like perfects it. And now it is going to backfire like over time. By the time we get to kind of the Gilded Age, we're going to have some civil service reform that's going to make it to where this is harder to do. But literally that only happens because we have a president, James Garfield, who literally gets assassinated by a guy who like thought he was owed a job in DC because he like wrote an editorial in some little newspaper one time in support of Garfield, and then Garfield doesn't like magically give him a job. So it's only at that point that the federal government goes, okay, maybe we should just like have some sort of civil service exam for hiring some of these people so that this doesn't keep happening. Anyway, just like my random history thought for the day.